I am reading Maxwell Maltz Psycho-Cybernetics and Think and Grow Rich, just a little bit at a time, just kind of going over some old stuff that I read, some stuff I'm just reading. And one of the things that kind of stood out to me in both books was, this one says, I learned more from my failures than from my successes. He says, like Sir Humphrey Davy, I learned more from my failures than from my successes. And in Think and Grow Rich, Napoleon Hill, he talks about evaluating your failures, evaluating your mistakes. Look for what you can learn. Look for what you can learn so you don't have to repeat it. Look for what you miss. Look for how you can change. Look for areas where you can improve. And I think it's important that we study the failures to keep from making the same mistakes, to keep from doing the same things, to see what changes need to make, to see how we can improve our lives, how we can change ourselves. And I think we avoid the failures because it's easy, right? Who wants to look at, your failures? Who wants to see, oh, I messed up again, But I think if you look at your failures, particularly not just one, but all of your failures, or as many as you can look at, and look for patterns, look for things that you've done. And that's what I've spent the last year and a half or so, 2 years doing, is looking at my failures, looking at the patterns of my life, my 50 years. A lot of failures are rooted in doing the same stuff over and over again, making the same mistakes over and over again, running from fear, running from hard things. And if you don't evaluate your failures and look at the mistakes that you've made to see what happened, what could have been done differently, you can't make any changes. You can't do anything different. You can't stop the pattern. You can't stop the cycle until you evaluate it and see, oh my goodness, this is what I keep doing the same thing again. I keep meeting the same type of man. I keep doing all this stuff. I keep going to the same toxic work environment. I have to keep getting the same toxic boss. I keep messing my money up with this. I keep wasting my money on this. I keep running to shopping when I'm afraid. I keep running to food when I'm angry. All these different things. If you don't evaluate your failures, you don't look at your mistakes, if you don't see the areas where you need to improve, if you don't evaluate it and say, okay, what happened? What was going on inside of me? What was I feeling? What was happening? If you don't evaluate it, you keep doing the same thing over and over again. And you wonder how you get the same thing. 10 years, the same thing has been happening. You have 4 deadbeat men that you've dated, or 4 marriages that you've divorced. You've had, children out of wedlock. You've messed up $300,000, and you're wondering, like, how do I get this money back? You've gambled because it's your escape from feeling yourself being sad or lonely or angry or overwhelmed or frustrated. It's your go-to. Maybe it's working in the wrong environment. Maybe it's all the things, right? It's ignoring things that we should pay attention to. So think about that for yourself today. And then look at, okay, what changes do you need to make? How can you make things better? But don't just keep doing the same thing over and over again. Evaluate the failures. The failures are teachers. The failures tell us what we need to change. The failures tell us what we've done in the past, how we can do something different in the future. So evaluate your failures. It could be overwhelming. It could be scary. It could be eye-opening, but it is worth doing to change your life. If you don't evaluate the failures, you just keep doing the same thing over and over again because you don't know what's happening. You don't know how you got to this place. And so I like, there's this book called The Mountain Is You, and the author is Brianna West. The Mountain Is You, Brianna West. And really, it's about looking at yourself to see how you sabotage yourself, how you go around and around sabotaging good opportunities, good things that, things that could have been good, paying attention to, stop ignoring the red flags. And so evaluate it. Just take some time. If you got to do it in hour increments, just take time. If you got to do it 15 minutes, just list out your failures, list out your mistakes, and just evaluate them and see what happened. What did you learn? Where can you grow? What are the patterns that you see? And what changes do you need to make today so you don't have to worry about, so you don't do that again in the future? Something to be thinking about is looking at your failures for patterns, for things that you need to change.